Uncle Jeff, have you seen the last piece of pumpkin pie?
What did it look like?
Come on, you're like 50 years old. You should know how pie looks.
Jeff, 50? Oh, come on. Can you even count to 50?
Uncle Jeff, I got some questions for you.
Yes?
Why do we have turkey on Thanksgiving?
Because when cooked properly, every 4 or 5 years, it's delicious.
Okay, so then why would we have green bean casserole then?
Touché.
Why can't I have a whipped cream? But that's the pie.
Clearly it's not stopping you.
Why did Mom have a full plate of stuffing when she's on keto?
Because carbs are comforting.
Why can't I just lick my plate?
If I'm in charge of the dishes, I actually encourage that.
Why are there no unicorns in the Bible? Why am I not allowed to sit close to the TV? Why does water taste different in Nana's house? Why isn't Grandpa allowed to have salt? Why is gravy brown? Why am I not allowed to touch the air freshener? Why does Cooper pick his nose so much? Why does Mom call me by my sister's name? Why do we plant all the time? Why can't I eat grass? Why can't I sit in Dad's chair? Why is Sunday school called Sunday school? Why do cows have 4 stomachs? Why do parents whisper when they get mad? Why do old people write in cursive? Why do babies have no teeth? Why is baseball so boring? Why do fish have no lungs? Why is Thanksgiving before Christmas? I know why.
You know why what?
I know why Thanksgiving comes right before Christmas.
Okay. Tell me. Why does Thanksgiving come right before Christmas?
Because it reminds us to be thankful that God sent us Jesus.
I never thought of that before. I like that. All right, now, hit me with some of that whipped cream, girl.
Oh, that's good. I'm happy on my face. I'm okay.
Okay.
I am? Okay, so this looks good. Good.
So last week we started this series, and it's all about Thanksgiving. And last week we simply talked about this idea that Jesus never asks us to ignore the difficulty or the uncertainty in our lives for the sake of being thankful. Instead, Jesus offers us provision in the midst of difficulty, and he offers us peace in the midst of uncertainty. And this week, we are going to talk about the games of Thanksgiving. The games of Thanksgiving. Last week, like I said, it was all about the feast. And the feast, Jesus offers us provision in the midst of difficulty. He offers us peace in the midst of uncertainty. And we celebrate that. And with the games of Thanksgiving, we celebrate the relationships in our lives. Relationships are such a beautiful thing. Thanksgiving Day, there are games that are played. There's obviously the NFL football games. There are some teams that play every single Thanksgiving Day in the NFL. But there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of backyard football games that take place every single Thanksgiving Day. There are families that gather around to play board games every single Thanksgiving Day. There are families that gather around to play charades and all kinds of card games. And games are a part of what happens at Thanksgiving. And it's this beautiful thing. It's this beautiful thing. Our family, we have a few games that we play at Thanksgiving. We play usually some card games. We usually play Uno, which is a classic. Or we play Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza. Now, those are 2 awesome games, and they're games that we can all enjoy. Luna, who is our youngest at 8 years old, she can enjoy those games all the way up through Kirsten and I, and we can all be competitive at those games. We also started a new game for our family, which is actually a very old game, Mancala. We will probably break that out at some point this Thanksgiving. We're enjoying that game right now. But there's one game that we only get out around Christmas. And we will play this game every Thanksgiving. And when Christmas is done, it goes in a box, and it goes with our Christmas decorations, and it is not gotten out again until we get out our Christmas stuff the following year. And that is Grinch Clue. Now, it's just like regular Clue. You're just trying to figure out who caught the Grinch. Except, now that would be kind of difficult for Luna probably at age 8, like figuring out all the clues and stuff. But there's one added additional thing that if you land on a question mark, you draw a chance card, and it could be a Grinch card. And if you get 8 Grinches, you all lose. So Luna has decided that it is her goal, the way she gets a victory is if she gets 8 Grinches. So every time it comes around to Luna's turn, you know she's going to go for a question mark, and she's going to get one of the Grinch cards. And it's this beautiful thing, like we have these games where we can all play together. And here's what I love about games. Games bring people together. Games bring people together. And it is a celebration of our relationships in our lives. You guys have experienced this. You've experienced this playing board games, card games. You've experienced this by playing on a team or playing a sport. Games tend to break down our barriers. Games tend to break down our barriers. They bring us together by breaking down our barriers and helping us build these incredible relationships. And we get to know each other better. Games also bring us joy and laughter, and we get to build a relationship by laughing together and having fun together and just enjoying each other's company. And games help us communicate in the midst of conflict. Now, I'll be honest, we love our games at Thanksgiving, but when we play some Grinch Clue, there's some conflict sometimes. And games bring us closer together because we can communicate better and we can work through that conflict. And these games, I see them as this incredible celebration of the relationships in our lives. In John chapter 10, Jesus is talking with the Pharisees. And he is comparing himself to a shepherd, and he is comparing his followers to sheep. And in John chapter 10, starting in verse 2, it says this: "The one who enters through the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The guard at the gate opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name, and he leads them out. Whenever he has gathered all of his sheep, he goes before them, and they follow him because they know his voice." Now, there are 2 things that I absolutely love about this verse. This verse is an incredible celebration of relationships. And we see Jesus in this verse in 2 different ways celebrating relationships. First, he says this. He says he calls them out and he calls them by name. Calls them by name. Jesus celebrates the relationship that we have with him. You see, Jesus knows us. He knows our ins and our outs. He knows our personalities. He knows our likes and our dislikes, the things that bring us joy and the things that bring us pain. He knows our passions. He loves everything about us. And so when he gathers us together, he calls us by name. And it's this beautiful thing where Jesus is saying, listen, Pharisees, there's something absolutely incredible going on here. I know my sheep. I celebrate the relationship that I have with my sheep. And then Jesus says, the shepherd leads them out. Now, here's the cool thing about this. As I have read this verse, I really, really like the verse a couple verses later that says Jesus came to bring us life and bring us life abundantly. And so I tend to read this verse really quickly and then jump to that verse. And this week I just sat with these verses right here. And I thought there's this really cool thing that happens because Jesus is leading the sheep out. He is leading them out to pasture. And a lot of times as I've thought about that, I've thought, man, Jesus is leading them to the feast. He's leading them out to where they can have an abundance of fresh green grass and clear running water, and they're going to get nourished and fed, and it's going to be this incredible thing. But here's what I realized this week. Sheep are incredibly social creatures, and they love to play. And so when you lead sheep out to a pasture, you will see sheep start spinning in circles, and you will see sheep lower their head and start butting at each other, and you'll see sheep kind of kick and jump and buck, and they start to play these games with each other. And I think Jesus is saying in this moment, he's saying, listen, Pharisees, what you don't understand is I celebrate the relationship that I have with my sheep. I also celebrate the relationship that the sheep have with each other. And I'm going to lead them out to this wide open pasture where they can play, where they can build relationships, where they can get to know each other. Because the beautiful thing is when my followers will come together and be in good relationships with each other. I celebrate that. And so as we draw to Thanksgiving, as it gets closer, I want us to take some moments. Like so often Thanksgiving is about the food, but as you play your games, I want you to take some moments and think, man, how awesome are these relationships? How incredible is it that Jesus has blessed me with these relationships? I wonder sometimes as I read stuff like this, like it doesn't tell what Jesus did after he led his sheep out to pasture. And a lot of times they talk about shepherds and sheep in the Bible, but they don't really explain like the ins and outs of herding sheep, because that was such a common thing in their time that everybody just knew what that entailed. And so we obviously know the shepherds had a few jobs. They had to make sure their sheep were fed and watered. They had to make sure their sheep were protected. And they had to make sure their sheep were well cared for, that they were sheared and all that good stuff. But I wonder how often a shepherd would lead the sheep out into the pasture, and after making sure that they were all well cared for, he would sit back and he would lean against his staff and he would just watch a sheep. He would watch a sheep run and play and enjoy each other's company. And I wonder how often God sits up in heaven and he just watches us. He just watches us run and play. He watches the games and the relationships that we build. He watches us get to know each other better. He watches us work through conflict, and he sits back and he says, wow, that is such a beautiful thing. This Thanksgiving, I want you to be thankful. This Thanksgiving, I want you to be thankful that God offers us provision in the midst of difficulty and peace in the midst of uncertainty. I don't want you to ignore the bad things in your life. This Thanksgiving, I also want you to celebrate your relationships. I want you to celebrate the people in your life that add value. I want you to celebrate the people in your life that you can count on. I want you to celebrate the people in your life that bring you joy. And as you play games this Thanksgiving, and as you laugh and you enjoy each other's company, I want you to think about God sitting up in heaven and thinking, that is so beautiful. That is so, so beautiful. And so tonight, for our part of our lesson, actually, we're going to play a game. We're just going to get to know each other a little bit better. And when we're done playing our game, then I'll come up and I'll pray and we'll do our last song and all that good stuff. But I want to encourage you guys, as kind of a practical challenge as you look toward Thanksgiving, is simply this. Play a game with someone. Get to know someone a little bit better. Encourage someone. build your relationships, and celebrate those relationships. And tonight we're going to celebrate the relationships we have with each other by playing one big game through our Convos app. And so I've got that game up and ready to go, but I need everybody in a big circle. Tonight we are going to try to rescue our poor pet turkey named Gravy, who has been captured by the butcher. All right, so circle up, we'll play this game, and then we'll celebrate the relationships we have with each other, and then once the game is over, I'll come up and we'll finish the lesson and pray and move on with the rest of our night.